Hey, it's Tuesday night. Lenny Schmidt back on a cruise ship. It's time for Total Schmidt Show. Let's do this. Hey, Total Schmidt Show, Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. Episode 99 of Season 2. Well, Season 2, Episode 99. Look, there's one more after this till Season 2 is over. So let's get right to it. Lucas Bohn is on this week. I worked with him on a ship not too long ago. This is one of my favorite, again, podcasts I love to do. We talk about comedy, in-depth booking. He's a producer. He's a comic. He's a writer. He's been doing comedy. He's got his own label, record label. He's got a lot of knowledge as far as booking and a ton of stuff about conversation about corporate gigs. And it's a really great conversation. If you're a comic and you're into looking at corporate gigs and ships and recording content that you can put online and make money from it, this is a great podcast to listen to. There's all kinds of stuff that Lucas and I talk about from the professional side. From the professional side of stand-up comedy. Do me a favor, real quick, like the video, hit just a little thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. It helps you out. And if you look above me, below me, and around me, you'll see all kinds of information as far as social media goes, how to follow us, how to support us. We've got Venmo, Cash App, all that stuff. You can hit us at MrLennySchmidt.com. Follow us on YouTube, subscribe, and follow the podcast. As a matter of fact, we're almost done with this season. We're going to take a break for a few weeks. As I said, this is episode 99. Next week is episode 100 with my friend Patrick Duffy, and then that will be a wrap for this season. We got to take a break. The kids from Westview, who handle our entertainment, if you guys follow us, you know, the tech kids, the AV department, Westview Middle School, they're having some problems over there. It's a dodgeball issue. I can't get into it, but apparently they've made dodgeball a 24-hour thing over at Westview, and the AV department is getting the brunt of that. So, which basically means they can walk around the hallways, get attacked with the ball anytime. So they're falling behind on production. So we're going to finish up episode 99, episode 100, and then they'll be back in a few weeks once they get some headgear and they go back to school. But for now, sit back and enjoy my conversation with a very good friend of mine, great comic, great producer, and man, I just watched this episode again, hour and a half. It's a lot of information. Lucas Bohn.
I started doing stand-up in 2010. I was touring a lot. I left teaching. I was touring a lot. So I listened to an audiobook once by a very famous comedian, Rodney Dangerfield, and he said, in order to keep your mind sharp, you should always be looking for comedic things. Comedy is all around you. You have to have your comedy receptors open. Some of the ways I do this is I try to find funny signs when I tour. Here are some of my favorite funny signs. From Little Rock, Arkansas, Walgreens, here we go. We have all your back-to-school supplies. 12-pack Miller, $7.99. Yes, sir. You will graduate with a 4.0 blood alcohol level. Yes, you will.
Dude, I look at your socials. Do you do piano too?
No.
Oh.
So, dueling piano.
Yeah.
Yes, so it's weird.
Is this something you're producing?
Yeah, so the whole thing started, I lived in New York City, and I had done one fundraiser for, we had a family at the school that I used to teach at that was just down on their luck, and they needed some money, and it was Christmas time, and so I got together a bunch of other teachers, and I said, look, I'm going to do this comedy show at this brewery. All the money's going to go here. I'm going to get a bunch of my friends to come. I'll pay them, but all of the money we raise is going to go to this family. And so we did it, and it was phenomenal, and that was 2015. Then in 2016, we moved to New York, so we just that was it. I did it one time. It was fun. I did a nice thing. It came back in 2018, and the owner, I did another one for Mobile Hope, which is literally a mobile, it's like a shower place where homeless kids can take showers in a safe area.
Oh, right on, yeah.
And
okay.
They have clean clothes and they can do their laundry.
Oh, that's cool. Where's that at?
It's in Loudoun County, Virginia, which is the county that I was living in. And so I was like, hey, not a problem. We did it at the same brewery, All Doc's Brewery in Ashburn, Virginia. And it went so well that the owners literally called me and they went, we don't know what you're doing. We don't know what's different, but we've hosted music and some other comedy stuff, and it's never gone well.
Right.
How is it that when you do it, there's 155 people, there's no parking in the what are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing?
And so I said, oh, well, I promote it on social and blah, 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 and they're a little bit older. And so they were like, is there any way you can book comedy for us on a monthly basis? And I was coming back from New York to Virginia, and I was like, yes, this is perfect timing. I'm going to be there. Like, great. Because at the time, I was driving back and forth from New York to Virginia, which is like a 5-hour drive at night.
Right.
So,
how often were you driving?
So it was like, I mean, the last year that I was in New York, 2018 into 2019, it was probably every couple months, like every 3 months, quarterly maybe. You know, we would do one big show. But then when we came back, I started doing it monthly, and it was awesome. And I always pitch it to people, just like yourself, Lenny. I go, look, if I meet you on a cruise ship and I think you're funny, I have these venues. They're mostly breweries, small little opera houses, performing arts venues, theaters. I will book you in it. You know, it pays more than what a 3-day Carnival Cruise Line gig pays, and it pays more than what the Comedy Zone pays. You'll get more than you get at the Funny Bone if you were the headliner without credit. Like, I try to pay you like a professional. We'll put you in a very nice hotel. You're going to perform at 3 breweries. I don't need you to advertise. I don't need you to, like, just show up and be funny.
Yeah.
And, like, people were, like, down.
Yeah.
You know? And so this was right after COVID ended. Everyone was kind of wary, but, like, we did a lot of outside shows.
Yeah.
And it did well. And then it was so successful that we went to a second brewery and a third and a fourth and a fifth. And then we were doing this event space. And then one day the owners go, hey, you guys got anything in other than comedy? And I was like, I don't know. I'm not a booker.
Right.
Like, but I have the internet.
Right.
And so I Googled. I knew that we had a company called Howl at the Moon on Norwegian.
Right.
They crush it. And listen to me, Lenny. I love music.
Yeah.
Lucas Simpson was great last night.
Yeah.
But like, great. That's not my gig. I would go to comedy every night before I go to music because I love comedy.
Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't really understand the appeal to it, but I was like, look, we'll book it. And I found a company in Pennsylvania that does it, and there's people all over the country, and they send us guys, and we now book dueling pianos at like 4 or 5 of our venues.
Right.
We just started doing murder mysteries, which is another type of comedy.
Oh, no way.
A
God, that's
different
cool.
genre. You
Yeah,
know?
I did those a long time ago.
And it's just different. We also started doing about 2 years ago. A lot of the guys that I work with are doing something else. I own a record label. Jay Black works for Norwegian. He is a full-time screenplay writer. He writes for the Hallmark channels and Lifetime. That's what he does. He'll write 3 or 4 movies a year.
Yeah.
2 or 3 of them will get bought. They'll get made into movies. He makes, X amount of money per movie.
Right.
He always has a part in it. And the deal is when he gets enough, he wants to sell the bulk of them to Netflix Serbia or Netflix whatever,
right?
Because they'll just take stuff that looks good, they'll dub it over in their language,
their
and
content.
it's just on there.
Yeah, they'll take the content. Yeah, right.
So and again, like, so Jay is a screenplay writer. He works actively with Hallmark and Lifetime, and so we had him come in. He does like TED Talks. How do you write a screenplay? How do you pitch a screenplay?
Right.
What is the writing process like? And he literally, it's funny. He's got a slideshow. He shows you, here are scenes from the movie that I wrote. And it's got famous people in it. And it's, so I mean, it's really cool. We have another guy, we're doing author talks too. There's an author that we've been talking to. His most famous one is Sean Cosby is his name. Blacktop Wasteland. It was a New York Times bestseller. He got a lot of heat. He got picked up by Tyler Perry Studios. They bought the rights to all of his books for movies.
Wow, right.
And he's now doing like a comic book for teens with. He's the Roots lead singer from the Jimmy Fallon show. I don't know what his name is.
Right.
Quaylove?
Yeah, I don't know. I know of him, but I know.
So I think it's Quaylove. I mean, if I said it wrong, don't yell at me. I'm sorry. But he's writing a book with that, and like he's just and he comes in and he's gonna read and take questions, and it's gonna kind of be like inside the actor's studio, but with an author,
Right.
And we sell tickets to all these things, and we pay the actor, the person, very, very well, and we do a lot of this at that one brewery, Old Ox, and we've kind of become their main booker. I kind of fell into it, but what we're finding is more and more people after COVID, they want to go out and experience stuff. They want to be They want to be in the group of their friends and having fun and singing along, or they want to be learning something, or they want to, so that's kind of how I fell into it, and it's not a part. Lenny, it's not a part of my life that I ever thought I would do, because I did not want to be behind. I always wanted to be in front.
Yeah.
And it just came, doing the record label and the production side and the booking and the scheduling. It's just something that a lot of comics have come to me and said, listen, I don't know where you're going to go with your life, but you're very good at this.
Yeah.
Like, we work all over the place. And, like, normally it's a train wreck.
Right,
You send us a gig sheet. You send us a contract. We know exactly what we're making. We know what airport we're flying in. We know where the hotel is and the address and what time we have to show up for that. Like, I break it all down because I'm a comic.
You're a comic, yeah.
And there's been times with, like, college showcase or colleges. Hey, you got to be at SUNY Cobleskill. It's like, great. Where is it?
Dude, how many times has been walking around campus looking for a room?
Do you know where the rec center, the student center is? I have a show in 10 minutes. And it's always like
buried in a basement somewhere.
Yeah, and you're like,
thing,
or no one knows there's a show. Like, oh, you're
of course, no one knows.
Know there was a show today. It's like no advertising, no marketing, no gig sheet, nothing. And it just, I try to treat it like it's something that it wasn't back then. Like, I tried to make it like this is a big gig. It's a $1,500 gig, buddy. It's not. You're not gonna. But the comics appreciated it because they were like, we walk into the building, you're there to greet us. You're in a uniform. The stage is set up. My name is on the marquee. There's advertising everywhere. There's a line out the door. The first thing you say to me is, "Can I get you anything to eat or drink? Are you okay?"
Right.
People like to feel like they're special.
Yeah, yeah.
I go, there is a 100% difference. I explained this to my business partner. When you are a comic and you've spent 8 hours traveling and you walk into a Hyatt or a Hilton or a Marriott, your body goes, it's going to be all right. I know this is going to be good.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas if you go to a roadside inn or
like a roadway or a super
it's just
free,
like, oh man, what's this going to look like? Has this one been updated?
You're waiting for someone to come to the desk. You ever stand there forever?
Hello. It's just awful. So I go, we have to spend more money to make our comics feel good because they in turn do better shows.
Sure, and
they feel like they're appreciated.
And you also get better comics, and they'll come back.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
If it's a good gig, you're like, oh yeah, I can't wait to do it again. I'd love to.
Yep.
You're gonna lose your good comics, and then that's how the whole product falls apart is by not doing that, getting shitty comics, and then the show sucks, and then suddenly you can't fill the room.
And that's in Lenny. That's in every single genre of anything you ever do. If you own an automotive store, if you own a cruise ship. We talk about other cruise lines all the time. We just talked about it with Courtney, and there's a very large cruise company, and apparently they're not paying their acts anything.
Right.
They can't keep good acts.
Right.
For the sole reason of they don't want to pay competitive
Yeah, I'm
rates.
always amazed. I talked to Lucas. This is funny. I'm doing two Lucases in a row. We talked. I did his podcast yesterday. The artists are always the ones that are squeezed in the middle.
Yes.
You know what I mean? There's the producers, then there's the lines or the theaters or whatever it is, but they'll cut back and they go, well, we'll just get someone else to do it. We'll get someone else to do it. And at some point, you can't really just get someone else to do it. And we talked about it a little bit the other day. You got to have someone that has a show, knows how to do a show, knows how to play a theater as opposed to a club, work the room, and they're professional.
Yeah,
so you know
what the gig is.
Yeah, because that's the other thing that blows me away the most about that is the less experienced the comics are, that you're putting your staff in a difficult position. Mm-hmm. Like Courtney and these stage managers and Tom's, suddenly like, where's this comic? I got to talk to him about this and the thing, and your expenses, whatever it is the littlest thing. It's so their work is 10 times harder. Yep. So it's a chain reaction to everybody, and it's all because they just don't want to have pay the entertainer, or they want to cut back on the entertainer's money.
And it's funny because and this is something that happens when you get older in your career and older as a human being, you start to learn your value. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and there's a lot of comics that go, look, man, and I just had this conversation with another cruise ship. I said, look, I love working for you, but you haven't given me a raise in a decade.
Yeah.
I am essentially, if we just average 3% inflation over 10 years, I'm making 30% less than what I was making a decade ago.
Yeah, right.
And you haven't given me a cost of living adjustment or a raise. So they go, well, we want your dates. And I go, that's great. You're going to have to give me a raise, and it's not going to be a $200 raise.
Right.
You need to give me $1,000.
Yeah.
Because that's what everybody else is paying.
Yeah.
And they didn't do it all at once, but they did it a little bit at a time. Here's $100, here's $50, here's, $150, whatever. Like they did it every year, and so it didn't hurt that bad.
Right.
And they go, well, yeah, but don't you want the gig? And I go, of course I want the gig.
Yes.
But also, I know what I'm worth.
Right.
If I say no to you, I'll get offers from
that's
these
the thing.
three other
Right.
companies that appreciate
I
my
had this
value.
conversation with my agent. It's not about filling the calendar. When
Yeah.
you started out, it was filling the calendar.
It was, absolutely.
You would look like, look at that, 6 months, man.
Yep.
Woo!
And
You
I'm
know,
raking that money in.
You're
and
pumped,
yep.
but after a while, you're like, now when the power of no is a huge thing after you've been around 30 years.
Yep.
And you go, no. Well, they're shocked. Why? I go, I can't. Well, then I need this. We don't pay that. Oh, all right.
Okay,
well, then
great.
we've
Cool.
grown away from each other, and I'm not mad at you.
That's why I go high
Business.
five to all. Great.
Yeah,
You know,
it's a business.
It's so funny that you said no, because some of the best advice I ever got in my life. Two people, Louis Ramey, very accomplished comedian.
Right. Yeah.
He works celebrity, and he's been everything. When I was early on into colleges, my agent Rob Jockel, who's been an agent for 40 years, literally goes, "You need to talk to Louis, because he's just a fountain of knowledge. You need to take him out for coffee. You need to you'll learn stuff from Louis.
Right.
But you gotta do it the right way. You can't just say, "Hey Louis, tell me your thing." He's like, you gotta be nice. You gotta be like, "Hey, I'm young. Let me take you out. Let me buy you lunch." You gotta just pick your brain about a couple things.
Yeah.
And Louis was very, very gracious, very awesome. And I'll never forget, I was literally outside of an APCA in New York, and Lou's smoking a cigarette, and I go, "Just, if you could give me one piece of advice, what's one piece of advice that would change my career?" He kind of took a drag, and he goes, "I'll tell you some advice." He goes, "This is the best advice I ever got. Someone told me, write an hour of clean material, it will buy you a house."
Yeah.
And I went, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of paused for a minute, and I went, because internally I was struggling. I have this voice, and it's not always clean.
Right.
You know, but I went, "Lucas, it's a part of your career that you need to work on, because you're getting more and more opportunities to do clean comedy than you are doing dirty comedy."
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
And I wanted to be able to say yes to corporates and cruises and colleges and anything that could get me to do a show. I can easily make it dirty.
Yeah, sure,
But,
of
like,
course.
you can't go back the other way.
No, right.
And I said, "Louis, like, did you buy a house?" And he said, "There was a time in the 90s when I was in New York, and I was working Caroline's and, the Comedy Cellar, and I was the diversity black hire that was clean. There were no other black comics that could be clean
It's a huge market
during
for
that
him,
time."
yeah.
So he's
Right.
like, this is after the wave of the 80s. It was coming down.
The boom was
And
coming down.
he's like, and there were comics that were just dying and struggling. And here I was in New York, and like Christmas time came, all these Merrill Lynch and J.P. Morgan are doing their company holiday parties. "Oh, we're gonna do it at the Comedy Cellar, and we want a clean comic, and it can't be offensive, and it can't be this, and also do you have any not white guys?" Or, do you have any, and so they'd say, "Oh, we got a black guy named Louis Ramey, who's great." And Louis is like, "I would get tons
So he's
of
crushing.
work,
He's the
tons
only
of
guy.
work."
Right.
And so he was like, that's like how I lived for like half a decade. Just, I was doing my own stuff, but like I was getting a ton of work.
Yeah.
Because I could just not, and he goes, "And I love saying cuss words, but I can also not say cuss words for 45 minutes for $6,000. You
Right.
know, like, he's
Sure.
like, I can easily do that."
Of course.
And so there was that, and then the other one was at the Comedy Stop at the Tropicana in Atlantic City. It's Kozak the Magician,
I know Kozak.
and he did an evening at the
He's in
Improv
Hawaii
back
now.
in the day. Yep, he's in
Yeah,
Hawaii.
he's got his own thing.
And he's got
which
this-
is a great thing for him. It
Yep,
worked out very
he's
well.
got a beautiful. Lucas Bohn, I'm gonna tell you what. Let me tell you something, Lucas. And I would come early just to talk to him, because he would do the 6 p.m. magic show, and then we would have or the 5:30 p.m. magic show. We would do the 7 p.m. and then the 9 or whatever, like at the comedy in the same building. So he'd be cleaning up, and I'd come in early to chat, and I'd say, I'd talk to him about my career and things I wanted to do, and he goes, "Lucas, can I give you some advice?" And I was like, "Please." And he goes, "Lucas, you need to get yourself a big old drawer of fuck you money."
Yeah.
And there was this pause, and I was like, I don't know what that means, Coz. And he goes, "Well, Lucas, a drawer of fuck you money will open a lot more doors than you think, because the strongest word in the English vocabulary associated to entertainment is no."
Yeah.
And he's like, when you have the ability to say no, you open the doors for negotiation.
Yeah.
And he's like, if you can say no and walk away, you will have the opportunity to make more later on down the road, or to do better gigs. And he's like, you need that money. And he goes, and listen, it's not always going to work. It's not always going to be the way you thought.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you go to the guy that you've worked at that comedy club for 10 years and you sell out every show and it's in, 2 towns over from your hometown and you bring your and you go, look, man, I need more money. And they go, it's not in the budget. We can't do it. You got to be able to say, respectfully, thank you. I'm not taking another gig.
Right.
I deserve more. If
Right.
you won't give it to me,
Yeah.
I'll go find somebody else.
Yeah.
And he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
And I struggled very hard for years to get myself to a place to where I was financially able to say to some of these venues and colleges and places like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
And when you say that, the look on their face is like, what do you mean you don't want to do it? It's like, well, and that's when you have the very curt conversation of, I'm a professional. I know what I'm doing.
Years, yeah.
This is why
this is
I
my
think
quote
I deserve
or whatever.
this money. This is what it's what the money is dedicated for, and blah 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 blah. And if you can't pay that, I totally understand.
Yeah.
But other people will. Just
Right.
because you don't see the value in me does not mean that
Right.
your competitors don't.
Right.
And it's our job, of course, to get the highest amount of money that we can to do our job.
Right.
And like I said, it's so funny because there's people that are like, we only deal with agents and managers and blah 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 blah. And I go, great, I don't have an agent or a manager. I am my agent and manager.
Right.
And I'll hold my skill of negotiating and being a nice human being to the decision makers against any manager or artist from CAA or Levitt, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like I know the things to ask for, and I know what's reasonable, what's not reasonable, and
No, dude, it's also the other. I liken it sometimes to an athlete. You have a short window.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You're not going to, you know what I mean? And everyone, I guess, technically has a short window. They're going to retire someday.
Yep.
But you, as an entertainer, I think it's even more so because sometimes comedy changes, things change, things are more popular, things are less popular.
Yep.
So sometimes you're hot, sometimes you're not. You have a good wave. So why not, just like every athlete, get what you can when you can, if you deserve it. Don't settle for something just to get work.
A great example of that would be Matt Rife. Matt Rife was a comic who, and a decade ago, crowd work was not in.
Right.
Nobody wanted.
Right.
If you were to say, "Hey, comedy club XYZ, I'm a crowd work comedian," they'd be like, "Next."
Yeah, right.
Because that doesn't translate into ticket sales. That doesn't.
Right.
We don't. That's what we call filler in our industry. That
Yeah,
means
right.
you don't have material.
Yeah.
We can't market that like, oh, look at this guy. He's talking to this other guy for 8 minutes on like that's not a thing.
Right.
He came along. He did it very, very well.
Yeah.
And now every comedian that I see is posting crowd work material.
Yeah.
And it's smart because you're not using your material.
Yeah.
But you're doing something that's funny. You're creating content.
Yeah.
You're getting those eyeballs on you. And crowd work is in.
Well, I started
in 10 years, it might not be.
Right. Well, it is a perfect example because I do this. My YouTube, I have this thing, Jokes on the Water. I tape all the shows, take like a 1 minute clip, put it up, whatever. And I used to just want to do jokes. Early on, I was like, I don't want to do crowd work. I want to do jokes. But then two things. One, you're burning material online. I mean, it's already out there anyway. But why put more of it out there? And number two, everyone else is doing crowd work, and everyone else is starting to look for it. I liken that to like when TV came around. It was either get on board or get out. Yep. You have to adapt to the way the business is moving. So if you don't like it, then that's great, but then don't do it and don't complain about it. I was amazed. Like the '80s is a good example of that. Is the back end of the '80s, guys would complain they weren't getting work anymore. And I was like, well, you need to write more and you need to hustle. And it's different now. Now there's not 9 million clubs. There's 1 million or whatever, So you've got to find a way. You got to adjust. Yep. This business changes constantly.
Yep.
And even look a lot of the cancel culture and all this old crap that we've been going through the last few years.
Yep.
It's made you more aware of a writer, as a writer.
Yep.
And it made you, there's some jokes I don't do anymore.
Yep.
Yeah, but if you're not willing to adapt to the business around you, it's going to leave you behind. That's how you keep working for 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
That's how you stay relevant in the business.
No, it's absolutely true. And it's like you see the comics that are able to adapt have multi-generational, multi-decade careers. You know what I'm saying? Because they're able to translate from the 90s to the early 2000s to the 2010s through the crowd work area to the 2020s through COVID. I mean, it was... it's a very unique thing to learn how to do. It's scary, of course, but nothing that is worth doing should be easy or not scary, because if you're doing the same crap over and over and over again, you're never going to get nervous. Like, people are always like, do you get nervous? They ask me before I go, do you get nervous? And I go, not really. And that's a problem sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I know that, Lucas, you're not pushing yourself enough.
Yeah.
You should be like, oh man, I just did these 3 bits that I know crushed. Now I'm going to do this bit that I am writing actively, and it is not, there's no dedicated ending thing. There's no big, like, I'm just out here working it out, buddy. We'll see what happens. And it's like, I'm trying to do, that was my big thing that I wanted to do for 2024, was that, like, you've got to at some point stop, because I'm not a crowd work guy. I am I grew up in the, premise, setup, punchline.
Right.
You need to know what you're doing. You need to have a roadmap. You need to know exactly. I used to tell people, sit up front. I'm not a crowd work comic. I have jokes. I know what I'm going to say.
Right.
Like, it's a scripted thing. I got it.
Right.
You're paying for the best. I'm going to give you my A. I'm not going to get up, so where are you guys from? Like, I didn't want that.
Right.
There is now a time in every one of my sets where I stop and I go, hey guys, is anybody celebrating anything, or blah, blah. Like, I will actively stop the jokes and go, Lucas, you need to work on this crowd work thing. Right. Which you're not good at because it wasn't your cup of tea. Right. But it is a thing now, and you got to try it. You got to keep doing it. So, it started off as being 30 seconds. You just do some banter, and then it's now 2 to 3 to 4 minutes if it goes well. And it's like any other muscle that we have, Lenny. You gotta stretch it to make it work. And it's just, and that's how you stay relevant. That's exactly.
You had no choice. Well, I used to hate. I used to attack the crowd. You know what I mean? Like, I was a big Kinnison fan, so I came from that. So when somebody would say something, I would tear them apart. But it was so angry and mean that I lost the crowd. I would lose the crowd. Mm-hmm. And also, a club owner told me once, he's like, dude, I used to have really long hair, like big, long hair. He's like, dude, you're a big guy. And it was heavier, a lot heavier. Big guy, big set of hair. He goes, you scare the crowd when you do that. And nobody wants, you're not Sam Kinison. You're not going to be able to get away with that. But I studied improv in Chicago. So I started to bring crowd work into my act. And what I do is I do a form of, you know what a herald is?
No, I'm sorry.
No, it's a long form improv I learned from Del Close at his.
Oh, Harold Longform. Yeah. Okay, I've heard.
Okay, and the key to and Alan Stevens used to do this. It's brilliant, but it's like it's scary. There's at least 2 to 3 people I'll talk to in the crowd. I'll find them, work off a reaction to 2 or 3, and then as the show goes on, I'll bring the 2 or 3 of them in to get into the show together in a scenario where they're all there, and that's the crowd work. So I'm constantly thinking how to refer to them. But the only reason I do that, I used to just do the show also. The only reason I'm doing it is the same reason. You have to do it now. Crowds are expecting you. Also, some people are walking in prepared and thinking that they're going to be part of the show.
Yeah, they're going to one-up the comedian.
Right. Exactly. And now I'll try to avoid those people at all costs.
Absolutely.
It's more fun to talk to someone that's just having fun. Because my show's just I look at my shows like it's a big party, we're having fun. Yep. And that's it. I'm joking around with you. I won't attack you. I won't insult you.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? But some people will get aggressive, and I can tell, and I just usually kind of ignore them. You know what I mean? No. Or work around them.
Yep, absolutely.
But you have to adapt, especially on these cruise ships, for like a 7-day gig. By the end of the week, people know you. They've seen you more than 2 or 3 times.
And if you give that impression off as like, this guy's a jerk.
Right.
Like,
right.
It doesn't just stay in the comedy club.
No.
They see you at the buffet. They see you in the gym. They see you getting on and off the ship. And you live here. And again, if you have a neighbor who's a jerk, that's rough because you just try to avoid the neighbor. But it's hard when the neighbor lives in the neighborhood that is literally the size of a crew. You're going to see that neighbor everywhere.
You see him in the gym.
And it's it's just weird. And so, no, you're absolutely right.
Also, let's be honest, it's a corporate gig. So if you're a jerk, that's going to work its way up the pipeline. And eventually, the cruise line's going to go, I don't know if we should book this guy anymore because he's a jerk. 100%. I know guys that have lost gigs just because they're kind of assholes. Yeah. And it makes sense because also the crew's got to deal with us for 21 days. If you're here for 3 weeks, you know what I mean?
And I tell people, like, we are a small production company, but like I get emails every week from people. Mostly it's comics direct, sometimes it's an agent, but I will tell you, I have had some experiences working with some comics who are not nice people, and just in my mind, I go, never work with these people again.
Sure, right.
Like, why would you? Because, why would you? Yeah. And it's like, I'm not a big, like, the $1,500 gig that I offer, every, year or 18 months to a comic, that's not going to move the speedometer anyway. I understand that. Right. But it's also like, I get to choose who I work with, and I'd rather work with happy, nice people than people that are mean and being a jerk all the time. And there are people that I know, that my brother-in-law, who's my business partner, who knows nothing about comedy other than what he's seen at our shows and through me, he will say, like, oh, that guy was a prima donna. That guy just, man, like, everything wasn't right. The hotel wasn't nice enough. It wasn't on the right floor. And why couldn't we send a car to pick him up? And, like, it just gets to the point, and I go, look, man, like, we'll just work with someone else. Like, it's not a big deal. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of talent out there. That's always blew me away in Hollywood too. I would hear about people that were difficult to work with, and I was always like, I'm a firm believer in there's a lot of talent out there in Hollywood. But once you get, I guess it's kind of the same thing. Once you get in the system, they use you all the time. But they have this, well, we need this guy for this part. But in the big picture, you go, no, you don't really. There's actually another actor that could. I went to acting class with some of the best actors I've ever seen, and they didn't work nearly as much as they should have. You could put them in any movie; they'd be professional and easy to work with. And people don't realize when you do a show, a gig, well, shit, a movie is even more, or a TV show. Those 10, 12-hour days you're working with that person. Mm-hmm. So if you don't like them, you're shooting yourself in the foot. It's just not. They're just not professional. And being professional is such a big deal.
And it's something that no one ever tells you about. No one ever tells you, "Hey, you're going to be a comedian. Let's just start from the beginning. If you have any vices, they will only be magnified by this career path. Right. Some people will tell you you don't do anything for 23 hours a day, and then you perform for an hour. Yeah. And you've got 23 hours to be high or drink or do anything else that is non-productive. You know. But you got one life, you got one body. And I tell people, I go, look, if you've got a little bit of a drinking problem, if you like to get high and sit on the couch and do nothing, and you want to become a comedian, if you're going to get to a level where you can do that indefinitely and have a decent life. But if you want to get to the next level and the third level and the fourth level, you got to just understand real quick, you got to be disciplined.
Right.
You gotta, hey man, I'm not gonna eat only food from the comedy club, or I'm only gonna, gorge myself on the buffet. Right. You're gonna have to go to the gym. You're gonna have to eat right. You're gonna have to make sure that every night you're not drinking 7 to 12 beers or liquor drinks after a gig, because that catches up with you. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And it's something that every comic, I think, figures out. I just read an article about Nate Bargatze, and Nate is a Southern boy from Tennessee, and I've known Nate, not personally, but we've done showcases and auditions. He was always a drinker. He would always drink beer. Yeah. He literally wrote, when he popped out about a year and a half ago, he said, I stopped drinking. I put the brakes on it because I couldn't be a dad and the performer and going from time zone to time zone to theater to this to this to this and be on my A game and feel the way I did after I went out and hung out with the boys like I normally do. Right. And there's a lot of comics that say that. They get to a point and they go, I'm on the next level. I'm a place that I've always wanted to be, and it's going to sacrifice. I have to sacrifice something. Right. And if it means I got to sacrifice not getting high every night or not drinking, 4 or 5 Jack Daniels, whatever, I'll do that. Yeah, because I want to do this, and I like hearing that. Yeah. Because we've all done something. We've all, I was an athlete in high school and college, and I got to a point to where I was like, I'm tired on stage. Yeah. I need to go back to the gym more. I need to get in shape. Right. So that I can get up early, and fly somewhere, and then drive, and then check into the hotel, and then do an awesome show, and then go back and get 2 hours of sleep, drive back to the airport, fly to the it's
the travel days takes that. I was having this conversation last night. I cut back on my drinking. In my 20s and 30s and 40s, I was a maniac. I drunk like a maniac. Yep. When I started working on ships early too, I was still drinking a lot. Yep. But as time goes by, I drank last night pretty good, and I go, I don't drink tonight. I won't drink. Well, why not? Because it's a travel day the next day. I'm not. Yeah. I have a long travel day, then a travel day the next day. I got one day with my kids. You know what I mean? Well, so, there you go. And the funny you say the thing on the gym, working out is such a big deal, dude. When you get older, how old are you, bro?
So I'm 42.
Okay, so I'll be 60 pretty soon. Awesome. In a couple of months. But dude, I work my core like crazy because it's not on stage is one thing, but carrying the luggage around
Backpacks,
4 times a week, man.
Yep.
It messes up your back if you're not
sitting
strong.
in the airplane seats that don't recline.
Yeah.
There's so many comics that have lower back problems, slip discs.
Yeah.
And it's like, I go, hey man, there's no guarantee that going to the gym 3 times a week would have prevented that, but it couldn't have hurt.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, this way I work my core more than anything. And as I've gotten older, I do the high reps, low weight thing.
Yeah.
And I change my workout every day. But it also gives you energy to get through like a show or 2 shows or whatever.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have a heavy schedule. Sometimes we have a lot of shows.
Yeah. Those are all parts of the career that no one ever told us.
Right.
That you have to figure out for yourself.
Right.
And most people do.
Well, if you're still around, you do.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess.
Yeah.
Also, dude. Also, this stuff, dude. I do.
Yep.
People go, "What do you do during the day?" I go, "I literally will get up at 8:00, cup of coffee, sit down, edit video. I'll work, or sometimes I'll try to write for the first 2 hours. I'll do a writing day, whatever. I work all day, and then I go to the gym, and then I go do the show. So much to the point where I'll go, I got to take a day off because it's just too much. I'm tired.
It's funny because my wife and I, we don't argue a lot, but we had one argument, and she said something along the lines of, and she wasn't insinuating, but I go, I want you to know that it was during the summer, so the kids they're home during the summer. During the school year, my wife's a teacher.
And they're little, right?
Yeah,
Your
they're
kids are
little.
small, right?
So I go I work from home, honey. This is my office.
Right.
And she's like, and I go, and when I don't work, and I'm not constantly emailing theaters and reaching out to breweries and trying to find comics, if I don't work, that income stops.
Yeah.
You can see it.
Yeah.
It's slowed down because the kids are home and they want to play with daddy, and okay, I'm going to go play, and we're going to go to the park for a day, or we're going to go bike ride. And those are all things you have to do.
Sure, right.
I get, and I go, but you also have to understand that I'm the guy. I'm the president. My name is president underneath the company.
Yeah.
If I don't show up to work, things aren't getting done.
Right.
And I go, I know that you sometimes think that I don't do anything on a cruise ship.
Right.
Or I don't do anything when I'm not on stage. But
crazy.
when you call me and go, okay, can you bring the car in real quick? Sometimes I'm going to say, listen, I have a phone conference with X, Y, and Z at this time, and then I've got to go, I got to meet with the editor to do, I'll get it done. It just might not be on your time schedule.
Right.
And she'll think, well, aren't you at home doing nothing? And I'm
Right.
like, in your mind, yes.
Well, there's
I'm
also
doing
an
nothing.
illusion, too, that you're your own boss and you can make your own decisions.
Yeah.
And you go, I did. I made a decision for a 2 o'clock meeting and a 4 o'clock meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
And in order for me to continue to be a boss and run a company, I have to be at that 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock. I can't just reschedule because suddenly now you're unprofessional. You can't, you know what I mean? It's a ripple effect. You're running a business. You're a business.
Running a business, yeah. And so it's like I said, there will come a time in our lives, honey, where I'll have someone running this for us. It will be to a point to where I'll go, look, we're gonna have, I'm gonna be the chief, innovation officer, CIO, and then I'm gonna have someone that's gonna be the president. They're gonna be going to the meetings.
Right.
They're gonna be scheduling the comics. I'm literally gonna show up, make sure everything's going good, answer some questions, shake some, like any other president would have been in any major company. That's going to happen. It's not right now. Right now, I'm boots on the ground, baby.
Yeah,
I am in everything. Every decision that's made. I go, honey, if they go, what kind of background should we have? They're not calling Steven, the marketing guy. They're calling me.
Right.
Because that's something that I'm in charge of.
Right, and you want it that way.
Yeah,
you want
exactly.
you want to have your hands on all this stuff right now, or if you go right.
But yeah, so it's that was one of the hardest things that I had to adjust with, was the ability to, when I'm not working, work. You know what I'm saying? Because you are your own boss, and and it's. I tell people, look, man, I like sleeping in too, but there are things that I tell people. I wake up and I go, I'm going to do these 5 things today. In order of importance, it's this. I'm getting 4 of these done guaranteed.
Right.
This is the one that if something crazy happens, the kid gets sick.
Right.
Whatever, my wife gets a flat tire and I gotta go. I can push this up till tomorrow, but these 4 things, I'm getting them done.
Yeah.
If it means I gotta stay up till 3 a.m. in the morning tonight to get them done, I'm getting them done.
Okay.
But I gotta get it done.
Right.
And it's easier, as you well know,
to
just get up earlier. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
If I gotta get that done, I'm gonna get up at 7:30. So it has changed me as a person and as a business owner and as a comedian. because I was of the full. I'm not a morning person. I'm not.
Right.
I'm not. I like to sleep in late.
Yeah.
But it's like the more and more I work, and the more and more, the bigger and bigger the company becomes, is that like I'm getting up earlier and earlier because every interview you hear with every major CEO, be it, you know, Dana White, UFC, or, you know, JP Diamond at JP Morgan, or Jamie Dimon at JP Morgan.
Yeah.
These guys start their days at 4 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
For a reason.
Yeah.
Because they go, the kids aren't up, my wife isn't up, there's no distractions.
Right.
I get to have my coffee, I get to ease into my day, I get to answer some emails, I get to go to the gym, have my time,
right.
you know, invest in me.
Yeah.
And then by the time the kids are up, then we get them on the bus, and the wife goes to work, and blah, 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 blah. And then I go to the office.
Right.
And I've already had 3 hours to get ready.
Yeah.
And, you know, so... Yeah, I mean, it's...
I'll just say one thing I've established, though, is like, especially, it's important to prioritize and have that list of things, because especially when you're running your own company, there's always shit to do. There's always stuff to do. I could work forever, so I started giving myself a hard out, especially if I'm home with the kids, or like this week I had friends, so I'll be like, all right, I'm going to stop working at 5 and we'll go to dinner. But what I do with the kids all the time, because they're busy, I'm busy, we're doing stuff, and I'll go, I'm going to have a hard out at 6. We'll make dinner at 7. We'll sit down. We'll enjoy the evening together. Yep. Otherwise, if I don't have a heart out, I'll work till like 3 or 4 in the morning, and then I'll burn myself out, and then I'm exhausted, and then I'm not fresh, and I'm not
exactly.
Doing
And that was a thing that I ran into, was that, you know, you don't factor in kids' feelings and emotions and a wife's feelings and emotions, and like, you know, I would work from 9 a.m. in the morning till 7 o'clock at night, and then the kids would want to play, and I'm busy, and now they're upset, and you're upset because you're tired, you just worked all day, and I got a kid fussing, and it's like, come on, it's time for you to go, you know, and then your wife is like, you were grumpy today, and blah, blah, and it's like, You gotta be able to say, I need to. Yes, the kids want to play with their father. That's not a bad thing, and I need to realize they have needs to.
Yeah.
They have wants to.
Yeah.
Great. So yeah, every day.
Well, it's all about balance, bro.
Off. Yep.
Plus, it's about a balanced quality life.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You can't work 14 hours a day every day. I mean, you could, but.
And there's a lot of these guys, and like I said, I love financial stuff, and I love, you know, learning about CEOs. There's a lot of CEOs out there, and they will say, you know, Elon Musk and Bezos, and, you know, they started their careers when they were young, and they had families, and basically all they did was focus on their career.
Yeah.
And they lost their kids. Their kids don't have anything to do with them.
Yeah.
Or their wives left them because they were absent
Yeah.
fathers. They were just always in the office, you know?
Yeah.
And like, yes, Elon Musk has created some amazing things. He also has a transgender daughter who won't speak to him.
Right.
And it's like...
Well, Steve Jobs went through the same...
Steve Jobs went through the
great
same
example,
thing.
yeah.
Yep. And Bezos has, you know, Mackenzie, his wife, who everyone thought they were a great couple.
Right.
And then they, a couple years ago, just split.
They split.
And it's like, you know, there's pros and cons, and everyone will have an opinion, but it's just, I think 90% of those guys didn't have an off switch.
Right.
They didn't know how to turn it off. When you're the guy at Amazon, you know,
you can turn it off.
You can't. Yeah. He doesn't know how.
Yeah, dude, you know, that's right. But you got to work. In my own point of view, you got to work to find that balance, because you know, overall quality life. Yep. You know what I mean? And because the older you get, and you work yourself to death.
Yep, you have one life, man.
Yeah, that's it. So I went through a lot of shit when I was younger, and I've learned to, sometimes when I'm working during the day, I'll get ahead of schedule, and I'll take 40 minutes off with my daughter. You know, I'll just do it. There's one thing with my kids, I've done almost to the point where it's too much. When they need shit, I'm there. I go there, I call them. They're older now. Anna called me this morning. She's in Costa Rica, and something went wrong on the trip, so she's all upset. Well, wrong. You know, she's 22, freaking out. So, but I'll talk to her. What's up? You know, I was having dinner with a friend, so I always drop everything for the kids.
Yeah.
But they're good with it. You know, they're good with it because they don't do it over all the time over stupid stuff or whatever. When they're genuinely upset. But my point is, in the long run, that matters.
Yep.
You know, my kids know now in their 20s. They're like, you're always there for everything.
Yep.
You know, whatever it is. If I'm on a ship, I'll find a way to call you. I'll find a way. It kills me that I got to be out here.
Yep.
I wish there was a way that I could do this without being out here. Yep. But you know what I mean? It is what it is. So I make the best out of it. You know, you work during the day. All my work during the day is hopefully getting to a point where I don't have to be out here as much as I am.
And I remember, like, with my wife, you know, before we had kids, it was easier because she's an adult. She had
Yeah.
a home of her own. She knows how to take care of a home. You know, the sink's leaking. She knows how to find a plumber. She knows how to vet a plumber. Like, there's all kinds of things. And now I tell people, I go, like, when I'm home, I'm home. I'm working.
Yeah.
But, like, if my wife calls and goes, like, you know, she did yesterday, she goes, our cleaner had to cancel and my dad's coming in. Can you find another cleaner to come?
Yeah.
She said, I don't care what we have to pay, but I want the house cleaned. I don't have time to do it. We started school last week. Like, the kids are going to a babysitter. I don't have time. And I was like, I'll do it. She also said, the yard is looking crazy. It's been 2 weeks since it's been mowed because I was on the ship. I do all of the yard work. So I go, look, I have a company on file. Like, I can call them and go, hey, Brian, I've been in Alaska for the last 2 weeks. Hasn't rained a lot in Virginia. The grass was kind of dead, but I guess it's coming back, and my wife doesn't like the way they... Can you send one of the guys over and just give the whole yard a big quick mow and weed eat this thing, and then I'll handle the rest of it when I get... I can do that. Mm-hmm. And I try to do that because that's easier on her than her trying to go, I got to take care of the kids. I'm a teacher as well. And it's like, I don't want to be out here. Right. And if it's easier for me to play the scheduler and to just, hey, look, I can't cut the grass, but I'll pay for someone to have that done.
Right.
Hey,
right.
I can't be there to clean up the house with you at night, but I'll pay for someone to have that done.
Right.
Absolutely makes all of the difference.
Sure.
And then when I'm home, like the things that I can't do, like I'll take your car to get the oil changed. I can do that. That's not a problem.
Right.
You know what
right.
I'm saying?
Sure.
I'll do that.
Right.
And I'll schedule it around my stuff, but like I'll get it done.
Right.
And so that's how we've kind of found our happy little our balance. And but it is important. I know guys that are just like, oh yeah, when I'm here, I'm here. You know, it's like I call my kids once a week, and I'm just like, and if it works for you, great. But like for me, I don't. You know, if my kids want to talk, they're very young, and they don't care about talking on the phone now. They're like, Dad, where are you? I'm like, I don't have to go. Okay, bye. Like, you know, they don't care. But like, there are times when they'll do something and they want to talk and they want to share, and you got to be there for that.
You got to be there. I mean, you got to show them that you're there because first of all, it means a lot to them because you're always there. Also, you're showing them how to be an adult and a father. Yep.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
You don't want to teach the next generation of absentee dads. You don't
right.
want to do
no,
that,
right. No,
know?
my upbringing was a nightmare. My parents were horrible. Honestly, they were not good parents. So I have four brothers, and so I went the other way. I worked really hard to be a good parent. Also, with the kids, funny, you bring a good point. When I'm out here, it's all about content and video and shooting and editing and stuff. There's homework to do. Homework to do is when you're home is the mowing the lawn or the bills or the something to do in the kitchen or I got to fix it. You know what I mean? So there's a whole list of other shit you got to do when you're home. So that's why I'll you know what, I get a ton of work done in airports, like a ridiculous amount of work in airports. Yeah. And sometimes when I got 7 hours, I'm like, oh, that's great. And I'll just
like, I'm gonna slice.
Oh, dude, I'll edit like 9 videos, and then I'll load my socials for 2 weeks and go, I'm good. I'm great. And I can kill a day with the kids and travel, and I don't have to worry stressed about a deadline or anything like that.
And that's something that, like, that was a different part. You said scheduling. That was a different part. My brother-in-law is a marketing guy, and every day I'd be like, oh, I got to post a video. And he's like, man, you got to schedule that. Because if you schedule it, it's not hanging over you all day. Like, I got to sit down and do this for an hour. And then he's like, you do it in an airport. Or and he goes, also, Lucas, like, you're making money. You got to pay money to make more money. Yeah. And, like, one of the things is we got one of those lounge passes because they have excellent internet.
Oh yeah, I got
showers,
that.
They have private toilets. They have food. They have quiet areas where you can business areas. Where
I know. I go all the time.
And I go, man, see, that's $600.
Dude, there's one in Istanbul. It's almost like a hotel.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
And he goes, Lucas, it's $600.
Yeah,
it's a tax write-off. It will change the way that you live.
And you'll get your money.
About airports.
You'll get your money back. I got that. I do the Amex Platinum one.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they also pay for my Clear, pay for half my Uber. They pay for, there's a bunch of these perks that if you use them, you'll get the $600 back before you know it.
And again, that was just me going, I don't know about it. It's just, you just think $600 a year, and you're like, oh God, that's such a ripoff. And then it's like, you do it one day, or like I did it in, it might have been like Cartagena, or it was maybe it was Jamaica. It was a place that was not known for their nice hospitality at an airport, and they had a lounge, and like I had lounge access, and I got in, and I just went, I'm never not doing this again.
Oh no, it's like, the greatest thing in the world.
It was such a pleasant experience. compared to like I'm looking down over on the people that like are just they're crammed in
Yeah.
the seats. And,
Well, dude, the first time you ever
know.
balanced your laptop on a suitcase while you're sitting on a chair with a plug stretched across the room, hoping nobody kicks it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you do that one time, and you're like, this is ridiculous. I gotta get out of here. So yeah, the lounge stands it pays for itself so quick.
It does.
And then the better Wi-Fi is huge because that's where I'll get all the schedule. That's where I'll do the scheduling.
Yep, me too.
I'll edit on the ship. I'll get like 10 ready to go, and then I'll do in the airport. I'll do the captions.
Yep.
And then I'll just schedule them for something I'll get 3 weeks ahead.
Yep.
I go, there we go. Or what I do a lot is, and this has started helping me a lot because I don't schedule, but I upload everything and leave it on draft or unlisted. And that way, if I'm something comes up or you're traveling, like, I can't get home. You know what? I'm going to list this video really quick and just bounce it out. You don't have to schedule it. You just do it when you're in transit. That saved me a ton because I got like 10 videos. I'm like, well, I'll just put this one up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's good stuff. Yeah, and it does make a difference. Like, it makes your life easier. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That was a part of the business I had to learn, and it was not something I was good at.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something that I've learned to do, and it's just discipline. You know, you wake up, you edit the video, you upload it to, and there's all kinds of, it's only getting easier, Lenny. That's the thing, is that, like, my brother-in-law knows all these crazy things, and we use this thing called Metricool, which basically, it links your Facebook, your YouTube, your Instagram, and your TikTok. You do one post, and it posts it to all four.
Which one do you use?
It's called Metricool.
I use Caturio.
Yeah.
But it won't let you. It puts restrictions on the tags and the type of video, so I can't hit all the platforms. They keep changing it. That's the problem. It's like, it works, and then a month later, because the Facebook, Instagram, TikTok don't want you to use those things.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, so they make it difficult for the third party.
Cool thing about Metricool is it won't let you post it until all of the things have been met. So, like on YouTube, it makes you think you have to add a tag, and it's like always comedy.
Right.
Well, what is this? Is it for an audience member that's children or not? You always have to select that now in a video. And so, like, what Metricool will do is you'll add the hashtag, you'll add all that in, and then if you hit post and it's not YouTube accessible, like you haven't done the things, it'll show up as an X. You still have one more thing to do, and you click on that tab, and it falls down, and it goes, you need to add a title, you need to select your audience, you need to add a thing. And, like, once you do it, that tab de-expands, and it turns green, and it goes, you can schedule your post now because you've done everything you need.
What's it called again?
Metricool.
Metricool. Okay.
Yep.
Check it out.
I'll send you a link. But it's
dude, that would save me a tremendous amount of fucking time because I'm doing individual platforms. I basically bounce from YouTube to Facebook. And Facebook does Insta, so those two basically go up at the same time. And then I constantly have problems with TikTok.
Yeah.
Like when I'm for some reason I'll load a video on TikTok. You can't schedule on TikTok too either. You know what I mean? So you need a third party to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't like. We just started working with TikTok, and I was very negative on TikTok because I thought they were gonna pull it in America.
Yeah, so why put the time into it if they're gonna? Right.
Yeah, why are we gonna invest in this? The federal government is gonna put a ban on this. Like. And it didn't happen, and it probably won't happen because there's a ton of advertising and marketing money that's involved with it.
Right.
But we just started doing that, and they're trying to make it more difficult so that you only stay on that one platform, and I think that's going away though. I think they're going to start to realize very quickly that it's not just one. It's not like MySpace, like in the early 2000s.
Sure.
No, there's a bazillion of them now, and there will always be a bazillion. There's always going to be something. In 3 years, there's going to be a new TikTok thing or a new, whatever.
Well, someone's going to develop something better and easier and more efficient. So if they don't keep up, they're going to get lost. That's what happened to MySpace.
Yeah, I think that's going to go. I think all of that like competition is going to go away.
Right.
Because the platforms just get look. We're happy that you're posting. On this.
Yeah.
And and I know for a fact there are algorithms like with Facebook. If you go, hey, this is a Facebook post, like my TikTok account.
Yeah.
That post gets pushed down to the bottom.
Yeah.
Because they don't want you.
They don't. Well, I don't
promoting on TikTok.
I don't put any of that stuff in the body of my videos. I'll put it in the comments. And I started referring to YouTube as and then the letter U, and then TOOBE. Because it's like YouTube is a red flag if you see it on Facebook. If it's on Facebook, that post won't get any follows.
Yep.
So I find ways to disguise it, and then I have what's called it's the Lenny Schmidt Comedy Network, and I'm at Mr. Lenny Schmidt everywhere. like
Yeah.
every platform. So that helps. So I'll just say I'm at Mr. Lenny Schmidt wherever you go. So sometimes that'll help out because then
Yeah.
I don't have to mention YouTube or Insta or any other stuff.
Yeah. We've actually started to experiment with, like, there's a way that you can put a hyperlink into a word. Like, click on the link here.
Yeah.
The hyperlink is just literally our YouTube page. But,
Right.
like, because it says here and it's a embedded hyperlink, like, for a while, the algorithm wasn't wise to it.
Okay.
Now I think 6
Yeah.
months later they go, oh well,
yeah.
it's YouTube. No, that's not.
Yeah.
But for a while there, I don't think it was held against us, but it didn't hurt us. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I mean, it's everybody's trying to build up that YouTube presence and the social media presence, and you can't just have one anymore. And you know, I used to tell people, I'm only on Facebook. I'm not a 12-year-old girl. I don't have Instagram. I'm not, a boy band influencer. I don't have TikTok. Like, I don't have any of that. I have Facebook, and that's kind of become archaic, I think. Like, you gotta have.
Yeah,
you gotta have more than
well,
one.
first of all, if I wasn't in this line of work, I wouldn't be on any of them.
Oh, me neither.
I'd be off the grid.
Absolutely.
I like being off the grid.
Yep.
However, because I'm on it, and I get stuff. I'm amazed when I have guys on the show. I'll talk to them. They have almost nothing.
Yep.
And I learned a lot during COVID. That's when I started doing my podcast and started pushing the YouTube thing way. It was a way basically to monetize money while you're not performing. You got to diversify your income. So that's basically what I started doing and looking into. But I'm amazed how many people don't have a lot of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or any of them.
Yeah.
There's a few guys I know that aren't on anything. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Jerry Seinfeld didn't, and Adam Sandler didn't have social media for decades.
Right.
And Adam Sandler recently now has a social media following. I think because his managers and agents said, look, like, you can't promote movies. Like, that's become a thing now.
Right.
If they pay you $4 million to do a movie, they also want you to promote it on your social media.
That's the new dockets.
Yeah,
the
and
new,
if you don't have it, then it's going to be hard for me to get you $4 million
the deal.
in video.
Yeah, suddenly you're going to
Whereas
make less
with
for the
Kevin,
video.
like with Kevin Hart and The Rock,
Yeah.
and we talk about Deadpool and Wolverine, Ryan Reynolds. Like,
Yeah.
his thing is, don't have a marketing budget. I'm your marketer.
Right.
I own a marketing company.
Right.
You're going to pay me based off of our marketing.
Right.
And so, it just crossed into the $1 billion mark.
Right.
They're getting a huge back end.
Yeah.
Because they're everywhere. They went to Wrexham and at their soccer team. They went on late night together, and they're pounding the heck out of this movie because that, and of course Marvel is happy because that's only making their pockets bigger.
Right.
But when you have someone like a Jerry Seinfeld who was never on social media, Jerry Seinfeld now is on social media.
Yeah.
And what he's doing is he's taking clips from interviews and old comedy sets. And
Yeah.
Seinfeld B-roll, and he's throwing it up there.
Yeah.
And it's just content. And they go, I'm going to be at the Palace Theater in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Come see me.
Yeah.
That's part of it. And again, he'll tell you, I hate it. I don't want to do it.
Right.
It's part of the gig.
Well, plus all these other actors, your followers play into whether or not you get parts.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they cast a lot of stuff now. I mean, you got to be on social media.
Yeah.
If you're up for a role in a movie, and even if it's not like a huge role, supporting role, they'll gladly put someone in there that has 5 million followers as opposed to a guy that has no one. Because they'll go, well, we'll get a percentage of those 5 million people, no matter what, at the box office.
Yeah.
So that's part of the booking process now.
Yep.
So whether you like it or not, you got to be involved in it on some level.
Yep.
Until you get super huge,
Yep.
and then you just don't want to work anymore, or guess. You know what I mean?
You become a Joe Rogan, and it's like that whole story is hysterical. Like he was a actor in, it was an okay sitcom, whatever. And he even says himself,
I like news radio. News radio.
Yeah, he's a guy. I'm not a great actor. I'm not a great sitcom actor. He's like, but I was really into UFC. I was a judo, black belt, and I was working with the UFC doing interviews. And when they got bought out, like Dana White literally called him and goes, like, there's this guy, like, you gotta have this guy named Joe. He's insane for this. And Joe's agent called him up and was like, you want to do this? There's literally no money.
Yeah.
Like, they have no money, Joe.
Right.
And Joe was like, yes.
Yeah.
Because I'm passionate about it. I freaking love it.
Yeah.
And I know these people. These are guys that, like, I talk to all the time in my free time about this.
Yeah.
And so he went from the first 13 episodes he did with the Dana White UFC when they bought it from the other company that was going defunct. They didn't pay him for 13 episodes. He still did it for free. And because of that, that dude now has a podcast that is worth $100 million. Well,
he was always smart with his money. I worked with him on a project right after News Radio. We worked together for a few weeks, and he was always smart with his money. Then he saved his News Radio money.
Yeah,
I mean he pulled up. He had a great car. Yep. I remember we talked about him. He talked about Andy Dick, who blew all his money, and Joe's like, man, I invested and so he had fuck you money from that moment on. And then he eventually did Fear Factor and all the stuff he did that moving forward was shit he wanted to do. Yeah. He was like, I don't have to do anything I don't want to do anymore. Yeah. So, and he was just smart going in. So from that point on, he focused on the stuff he'd like to do. And it was all because he had all this fucking money.
And also, he was able to invest. Like, when they came and said, there's no money, like, for doing this, like, you just got to do it because you love it. And he was like, I don't need the money. Like, I'm not an Andy Dick, where it's like, I need that money. I need crazy money. It's like, no, he's like, I can take off 6 months. Yeah. And I can just do comedy clubs and, the gigs that you bring me, but I can invest in this for 6 months because I believe in it. Yeah, yeah. And it got better and better and better. And then they hired him on as the main person. And, then his numbers in his theaters went bigger. And then one day he said, I saw this in his interview, his podcast. He goes, one day I said something like, hey, I was at a show. I was like, hey, I got this podcast. Do you guys listen to it? He goes, and everybody was like, oh. And he was like, oh. Yeah. Like, he's like, I didn't think I was doing the podcast just because I love talking to my friends about crazy crap. Right. I didn't think it was going to be a thing. I just loved doing it. Yeah, yeah. And he's like, we weren't making any money. Like, it was costing me money. Yeah, yeah. And he's like, but then it was like, oh, like these people actually listen to it. Right. And then it just got bigger and bigger. Bigger and Mark Maron too, well, that's a good thing because my podcast doesn't make crap. I make nothing, but I think I told you this. I love talking to guys like you and other entertainers about everything, every aspect of the business. And there is in the long run, because this stuff is all online. Yeah. There's a market for it because people who do watch it are in. I've had just a couple comments from the one I put up this week where people like to know that there's a market out there. People go, I had no idea that much work went into doing booking theaters and stuff. You know what I mean? That people like that. I used to book right back when I made the decision, like, I'm gonna start doing this. I had this silly little thing, one man video vlog called Life Below Deck, and then of course a show comes out.
Oh right, yeah.
Below Deck. Yeah, and I was like, God bless it.
Yeah, right.
But I have 13 or 16 episodes up there, and all I would do was I would go on a cruise ship and I'd find someone like you. And I just gotta go. It's a 3-minute interview. Can I tap? Art gallery director, cruise director, a dancer that's dating another dancer. Like, what's it like to work and be with somebody in an 8x10 cabin for 6 months at a time? Like, and we would have a conversation, and it was like 3 minutes. I'd ask him 2 or 3 questions, and then I would add a clip up of me doing stand up, hopefully about the subject matter that we talked about. Yeah, and I'd post it, and like I got thousands of views from people that were like, I didn't know that they had to eat I didn't know there was a buffet below the ship. Like, I didn't know. Like, it was all just, I didn't know cruise directors worked for 8 months at a time. I didn't know that the art directors, are paid this way.
Well, I didn't know they shared rooms. And there's a whole bunch of stuff they don't know.
Yeah, and it was just called Life Below Deck. And it was just a little bit of tidbit of this. And it got a lot of views. It was just something that I felt like it played its role out. There's only a certain number of people that you can interview that have jobs on this cruise.
Sure, right. Also, you got to be careful with the corporate situation. You know what I mean? Like I try to be real careful with, because I just did a cruise director a few weeks ago on Celebrity. I was surprised she offered to do it. I was like, I stopped asking because they were not corporate, blah blah.
Yeah,
blah, blah.
I did one on Norwegian, and it was a guy, and this was 3 or 4 years ago, and he was like, just make sure that I don't look like I'm trashing anybody or the company. And I was like, no. And it was very like, generic.
That's cool.
Like,
good.
How did you become a cruise director? Like, what's your background in? And it was just stuff like that.
See, that's smart. I got to take, because this pod, they're all about an hour long. and they go up on YouTube, and then I put them on the pod platforms. But then I edit them in short clips, and that's what I need to put out more, because the short attention span. People will watch 1 minute, and that's how you drive in more traffic. You know who Patrick Keane is?
I have heard of him, but I don't know him personally.
He's a comic out of Los Angeles. He doesn't do many ships anymore, but he started doing this gig. Dude, he was hilarious. It was Cruise Ship News, and he would wear a captain's hat.
Yeah.
And it was just him and the news was like, he would come out and say, Marjorie and Karen from Iowa today had problems with the salad bar. Apparently they ran out of potatoes, and it was just these jokes about whatever the ship was. And then little Tommy got stuck in the elevator again yesterday. We couldn't find him. He's hitting all the buttons. That's a problem. He's in the brig. And then, dude, there's a bunch of them. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. But he doesn't do many ships anymore. And I'm like, God, it was so funny.
Yeah. I did one. This was in 2015. One of the Carnival ships I was working on caught on fire.
Oh, the Triumph or the...
one of those ones. The smokestack caught on fire.
Yeah.
And so I did... I came on as... I used to do it like cruising with the captain or the captain's announcements, and I'd have that ding dong. Yeah. And I'd come on, I had a mustache. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Capitan Spaghetti, and today we are having the fire sale. You know, like fire in the background, and like I got a CO2, a fire extinguisher next to it. Okay, and we have compliment. If you buy a new cruise, it comes with free fire extinguisher. Okay. And I had my daughter at the time. I said, okay, we got to go. My first mate is going to jump into the lifeboat. Go, Petrie, go. And then my daughter would throw the water and it would hit me. I'm like, oh, Petrie, you got me wet. Like, it was just hilarious. Silly. But, like, people would watch it and, like, they would comment, like, oh, my gosh, that's hysterical. And it is. There's so much of that, and you need one. Once you get, and that's like, I love talking to Matt Rife. Matt Rife has this great video up. He was like, look, I was in some dinky little town, and I bought this camcorder, and I was literally debating, like, I have like 3 months of money left to where I can do this thing full time that I love. Yeah. And then I got to make a decision. Like, I either got to get a real job, or I got to get a part-time job, or like I got to move home, or I'm not making it. And he goes, I put a video up of my crowd work, and I edited it, and I just put it up, and it went viral.
Yeah,
and he's like, and from then, it just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And he's like, it was one video. Yeah. And the minute I went one viral video, all of the other videos that I posted went crazy.
Yeah, Keon Pooley told me the same. I don't know if you know him. He's an LA guy. His YouTube,
I think you told me about it.
Oh, yeah. His YouTube's real successful. Same thing. Because I was trying to build mine. I had him on the show a couple times. And I was like, what did you do? How did you... He's like, I can't explain. Yeah. I can't tell you. He goes, you know what? Just keep posting. Be consistent. Eventually, for me, one blew up big. And he goes, and then they all blow up. Yeah. He goes, and to this day, he goes, I'll have videos now that I shot 5 years ago that suddenly, like, oh, look, it's got 5 million views in the last 2 weeks for some reason.
Because
whatever.
They found it. And the algorithm goes, oh, this is good. People like this. Let's funnel people.
They start funneling it over. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Because, again, the algorithm is not stupid. It knows that, and I'm sure he has advertising in with
He's got,
YouTube.
By now,
so
I'm sure.
It goes, look, it's in our best interest to feed the machine. If I'm the machine and I want to eat, and I see this guy had 5 million views here, and oh, this one's getting hot. Well, let's just push some people to that. Right. Because that's what it wants. It wants eyes on the ads.
You know, I was going to hire a guy to do a lot of the editing and the uploading and stuff. And I had a meeting with him. He's over at All Things Comedy, you know, the Bill Burr's company, and Schubert uses him. So Jimmy sent me his way, and I sent him my links to go take a look at all my stuff and all this. And he gets back to me and he goes, "Man, you're doing the right thing. He goes, you're doing all the right stuff. He goes, if you hire me, you're going to pay me to do what you're doing." And I'm like, and part of me is like, it's a time is money thing. But then one advice he gave me is this. He goes, "Man," he goes, "take a look at all the videos you have. You'll get one or two that blow up and do really well." He goes, boost that one. He goes, the ones that blow up and get a lot, boost that one. And then suddenly you'll get more. And it worked. I got some that hit like 4,000. I boost them, and then suddenly they have 12,000. And then the next two I put up get like 10,000, 8,000. So it worked. Whatever that technique is, it worked. The ones that are successful, spend a little bit of money, like Facebook money, whatever it is, and boost it and get it out more. And I'm like, okay. And that's what I do now to this day.
That's the cool thing with Steven is a marketing guy, and he's very savvy on all that. And he'll say, look, the cool thing about it is that like Meta and these places now, you can get the data from that.
Yeah.
You can go and say, well, we put $5 a day, and here's the age range that we want, and here's the demographic that we want, and blitz that and the other. And you can look and go, well, this video right here got 7,000. And we put $5 in it. This video, we put the same 5,000. We did it at 7 p.m. the day before, and it got 280 views.
Right.
What's the okay?
What's the difference?
This one is a more successful ad for some reason.
Right.
You don't know why.
Why? Yeah.
We're gonna. He goes, and Lucas, like, it needs to be up there for 2 months. You need to be able to get a long, broad, and he's like, it doesn't have to be $50 a day. He goes, it can be $5 a day.
That's right, yeah, yeah.
$3. He goes, as long as it's consistent. As long as the machine can then go, we're getting a little bit of money, and it's slowly, every video he puts up is getting more and more and more.
Right.
As he calls it, feeding the machine.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't fight the machine.
Right.
The machine is going to tell you what the audience likes.
Yeah.
Because it's in the machine's best interest to do that.
Right.
It wants you to make money and
Sure.
to spend money.
Yeah, because they'll make money on the advertising if people are watching. Right.
Of course. So
yeah.
he's like, take that info. He goes, and part of it is analyzing it and understanding it. He goes, they make it so easy now. They'll tell you, this one is doing great. You might want to put some money behind it because it's getting,
it's getting a lot on its own.
It'll send you texts.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy, in the last 1 hour, 1,500 people have liked this, and 12 have commented, and it's been shared 23 times.
Right.
You should probably boost it, or you should probably, blah, 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 blah. It's absolutely true.
Right.
And it's like, and once that happens, the algorithm learns or whatever, it goes, all right, this guy's putting out some stuff that people care about. There we go.
Right.
And all makes it easier.
Yeah. No, it's
Now,
all, you got all the tools.
All Things Comedy, though, I have a question for you. Like, did they have a social media presence? Was it beneficial to you to say, okay, if you take my videos and you put them on your platform, were they putting them on All Things Comedy's platform to where if they have 500,000 followers, now 500,000 of their followers are getting eyes on it?
No, he doesn't.
It just on yours?
It's on yours. It's on yours. So it's not like joining their platform. I approached them years ago about getting my podcast on their platform. And this guy, I'm not sure he's still at All Things Comedy, but he may do this on the side for other comics. In fact, that's why I was surprised he was going to take the time, because he does Jimmy because he knows him, and Jimmy said he doesn't do a lot of comics because he's working with All Things Comedy. So they don't bring you into that platform, that whole All Things Comedy platform. But he schedules all Jimmy's stuff. So he does all Jimmy's social media and everything. He just, and he schedules weeks ahead, months ahead, all stuff. Jimmy sends him the footage. He gets it up. He knows when. He knows the algorithm and stuff.
He has his schedule. He adds the show times at the end of it. Oh, Jimmy's going to be at the Schubert Theater on... Blah,
or when the
blah,
new
blah.
special comes out. So Jimmy's Zero Tolerance, or whatever his last special was called. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
that's awesome.
But the information from those guys, it helps. Every little bit of information you're learning as you fly on this anyway. You know what I mean? So I take as much advice from those guys as I possibly can, especially the guys that are successful. You know what I mean? So, dude, let's wrap this up. This is over an hour already.
This has been fun.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you.
Was fun.
Yeah, this was really perfect.
I love talking shtick. I love talking.
I know. I love it too.
To me, it's just something that it's such a cool industry. It's we've all been there. People are always like, "Oh, you're a comedian. That's so cool." And I always tell them, I'm like, "It's not."
Yeah.
I was like, it's not sexy at all.
Yeah.
Because I immediately go to the early mornings, the late nights, the sitting in the travel lounges, missing your kids' birthdays, the missing your wife's anniversary, or, the delayed flights, or the lost luggage.
The nights. Your nights are gone too, man.
But then when you sit with someone else who does it and you talk about the cool stuff, like, every now and then, like, I'll be like, man, we do some pretty cool shit.
Yeah.
Like, I've learned a skill, and I'm not a tech person. Right. I tell you that. Like, it's not an easy thing for me to learn. I'm not comfortable with it. I always get flustered. But, like, I've learned to do some pretty cool stuff, and to think. My wife always calls me she goes, "You're my little critical thinker," because she's a gifted teacher, and she goes, "You would have been one of my favorite students and one of my least favorite students at the same time." She goes, "You are ADHD. You are all over the place."
Yeah.
She goes, "But when there is an obtuse problem, a problem that doesn't have a yes or no answer," she's like, "I always take a step back and I go, Lucas is going to figure this out, and he's going to figure it out in the first time."
Right.
And it's like, she'll always say, like, you always have the most creative, outside of the box thinking solutions that I've ever encountered. And it's not always comedy stuff. It could be, like for example, my when we adopted my son, my daughter was in pre-K, but he was too young to go to the pre-K because he was under a year. They start at a year. I was going to Alaska for 5 weeks because I had just signed with Norwegian, and they had a new booking agent, and my agent said to me, you need to do them a favor. If you do, you'll get on their roster and you'll get more work. And I was like, that sounds good. Let's do it. So they gave me this 5-week thing. It was in May, mid-May to like end of June. My wife is still teaching school. My daughter is in daycare. And I was literally watching my son, my newborn son, my 4.5-month-old son.
Yeah.
During the day. Well, I had to leave. And my mom and dad couldn't come up. They lived in Virginia. We lived in New York. I called all these, places in New York that had childcare. We're sorry, it starts at a year up. And it was getting closer and closer. And my wife was stressing. I knew she was. And in the back of my mind, I was like, I'm going to have to cancel these gigs. I can't do it. And then I went, you know what? We had a friend. We go to the beach every year with another family. And we had a girl who was like their babysitter. And when they had 2 young kids, they just came. Her name was Chloe. Mm-hmm. Chloe just came and babysat. She was 15 and she had her own room and they paid her $200 for that week. But she would just be there as another adult to help out. Right. And she was we called it our first adopted kid. But she was a 15-year-old.
Right.
Chloe at that time I think was 19. She was in college and her college had ended in May. And I said, what if we call Chloe Sanderson? And I offer to pay her, I'll pay you $3,000 a month, or I'll pay whatever.
Right.
And you'll have your own room in New York City.
Yeah.
We only need you from the hours of 8 to 3.
Oh my God.
When Christy gets home,
you're paying her to be on vacation
done.
almost.
You can go on vacation. You can.
Yeah.
And
check
she
out New York.
was studying architecture, and there was all these museums and stuff. And I go, we only need you for 5 weeks. I'll pay you this amount of money. It was good money.
Yeah.
And I'll fly you there. You'll have your own room. You have your own bed. I'll make it. And I'm not going to be there. It's not like there's a creepy guy walking around in the room. It's going to be you and my wife and my 2 kids.
Yeah, right.
In an apartment alone, in a very nice apartment in and she was like, that's a great idea, because she was looking for a job.
Yeah.
And I called her and I was like, Chloe, here's the deal. And she was like, I'm in. And so literally, I picked Chloe up from the bus station, or from the train station at Grand Central Station, took an Uber back, got her settled, and that 6 hours later, I woke up at 3 a.m. in the morning, went to JFK, flew to Seattle, got on a ship in Seward, or Seattle to Anchorage. I took the bus to Seward, and I did that thing for 5 weeks. And my wife will tell you, she goes, that was the best experience that we could have had with that awful situation.
Yeah.
I stressed out of it. And she's like, I never would have thought that. I never would have thought, hire a college kid, and they can treat it like a vacation, but you'll also...
Yeah, everybody wins in that scenario.
My wife, she goes, I cooked for her every night.
Yeah.
She didn't have to buy food. She didn't have to buy, we got her a Metro pass and just put some money on it.
Oh, right on, yeah.
Hey, you want to go in the city?
Yeah.
Knock yourself out. Go visit your friends. My wife would say, oh, I'm going to go. Do you want me to drop you off so you don't have to take? And she'd be like, no, I got it. It was a great thing. So, I always tell people, the outside of the box, that is directly related to me doing this super weird thing and having to adjust every day.
Right.
And having to look at the big picture and go, how do we do this and get this? It's not A or B. It's not yes or no. It's not, multiple choice. It's critical thinking.
Yeah.
How do I not have to work 40 weeks on a cruise ship? Well, let's figure it out.
Right.
Okay? I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to do a vlog. I'm going to start a record label. I'm going to do something to where I can focus my time when I'm quote unquote doing nothing.
When it's also self-made. You're doing it yourself. It's not like you get a job, you got to get I hope you get a promotion. Yep. You're figuring your way out of those problems. I look at it from a similar opposite way. I contributed to me. I think a lot of comics also are like this is being raised and coming from chaos.
Yes.
When I was a kid, my life was extremely unpredictable.
Yeah.
There was always a problem, and we always had to figure things out. That's built into me.
So like when shit would go wrong, I know when something really bad happens, I'm uber focused, and I'm like, all right, we're gonna have to deal with this right now. But it comes from growing up in situations where we had everything from our power was turned off, our gas was turned off, we were evicted. You know, I mean, just you never knew when the police were going to show up. I mean, there's just weird things happen to me. Grew up in chaos, so my whole life was solving a problem, that other people didn't have. Because people will go, oh, that was so messed up. I go, well, I mean, it was the way that's what made me who I am. It's probably why I do what I do. Because we're constantly changing, we're constantly moving, we're constantly. I was doing TV before I got divorced. More TV now. I'm doing shifts. Then COVID. I mean, if we don't solve these problems ourselves and create our own opportunities and businesses, I mean, those are the guys that kind of stick around. They're the guys that make it. Yeah.
No, it's absolutely true.
But you're right. I love talking about that stuff.
One more thing, Opus Pro. Have you ever heard of Opus Pro?
That sounds familiar.
A lot of people are using it now. It's basically if you use, if you take a video and you upload it into Opus Pro, it will give you. You can do a split screen. It'll give you for podcasting too. Okay. And it automatically adds in the captions and like. I can find.
I knew they were going to do that eventually.
Five comedy comedians.
Opus Pro. Look into Opus Pro.
It's always green words, and it kind of pops up like that when they say it.
Yeah.
And it just dictates what you say. So you can take any video, and they've added to it. But when I originally did it like 8-9 months ago, it was literally you could pick from like 2 screens, like the podcast one or the live view.
Yeah.
And it was just the video, and then it would add in the subtitles, the captions underneath it.
Right.
And everybody is now using it because every podcaster, because it's just so easy.
Yeah.
But Opus Pro is great. Now you can do like it's got the comic up here, it's got the audience down here.
Yeah.
You can manipulate the video frames, so to speak.
Okay.
But like I used Opus Pro on a ton of our videos just because I Flip Schultz did this. He would show me his video. He would go in and type the captions in to like a text bar.
Yeah.
So that for his videos. And I went, I don't want to do that. I don't want to type in the text.
It takes forever.
And I found a company, Opus Pro, that does that. And it's like, you don't have to do that now. You can just take the video, throw it in. It's got a 99% correct type to
you know what I use?
rate.
I use CapCut.
CapCut, yeah, same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah.
So I use CapCut. I use it for all my shorts, and that one's cool because you can change the font and do all kinds of stuff with it. You know what I mean? And you just got to read over it. You're right. You just got to change a couple things here and there. But yeah, it works great.
So I mean that's an easy thing.
They're going to do that eventually for. They don't have it for Final Cut Pro yet, but eventually they're going to have a plugin for it because everyone's going to have to.
Well, Facebook does it now. We've put up videos for.
YouTube they'll do it automatically when you upload
YouTube
the
does
video.
It automatically now.
Yeah. In fact, I'll turn it off because I like mine better. You know, I don't like theirs. Theirs is very static. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's cut and dry. It's a beta version.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
In a year, it's going to be awesome. But right now, they're like, hey man, we just want to make sure it works.
Yeah.
We're getting all the kinks out.
Yeah, but they go, I mean, it won't be long before, I mean, there's going to be, it just gets easier and easier and easier.
One of the things Steven and I always argue with, and he goes, look, this is so trivial. He goes, you're so ADHD. Like, you need to, he's like, I'm telling you, you need to walk away from this one. And we have a background. We don't have a background for our company, okay? Bojo Entertainment. We film at breweries. The background is the brewery's background. Okay, so sometimes we have like brewing kegs in the back. Sometimes we just have like a blank wall. Okay. And I go, Steven, it looks awful. We should have our logo on a screen that we put up or a fabric thing. And he goes, Lucas, in 6 months, you're going to be able to take any video you want. You're going to be able to put it up there, and you're going to be able to impose a space background. Or like a green screen almost. You're going to be able to have Bojo Entertainment going with our website on the bottom, scrolling as you see the comedian do. And he goes, we're not there yet. Right. But in 6 months, we're not even going to have to worry about that.
Yeah.
That's going to be a standard option on every video editing software. He goes, do you remember we had this conversation about captions? That was me a year ago. I go, my friend Flip Schultz has to type it in, and we got to hire someone to type it in. And he goes, Lucas, in 6 months, there's going to be a company. And he was right. There wasn't a company. There was 35 companies.
Yeah, right.
And they all were doing the same thing. Yeah. And so I remember, every time I come in, I'm like, I think we should do this. And he's like, if he gives me any pushback, I'm like, no, you're probably right.
Yeah,
you're probably right.
Yeah, it's good to have a yin with your yang.
Yeah. Anyway, man,
dude,
this was
plug.
fun.
No, wait. Plug into the camera. Anything you want to plug? Website,
So,
social.
I don't really promote my social, but I will say I have a comedy record label. It started very innocently. I had 2 albums on SiriusXM Comedy in 2015. There's a comedian named Warren B. Hall who is my brother from another mother. I love
Warren
him to death.
Chicago
I love
guy.
him to death. And he literally, we were on the Norwegian Escape. He was hosting. I was headlining. And he got a SiriusXM royalty check. And he was just giddy. He was just happy. And I was like, what got into you? And he was like, brother, do you have anything on SiriusXM? And I went, no, I don't know how to do that. That's video edit. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And he goes, you need to learn. And I went, it's so much work, man. Like, wait, but I'm never going to do it. And he goes, I'm going to give you some motivation. He goes, and that, do you remember the phone call where they're like, you on my 5? Yeah. Am I in your 5? It was a Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah.
He goes, you're in my comedy 5.
Yeah.
I'm letting you. And he pulled his phone out and he logged into his bank account and he showed me.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say the number on camera, but it was a 5-digit number that got put into his bank account for a quarterly thing with SiriusXM.
Yeah, right on.
And it was more money deposited than I'd ever seen deposited in my life.
Right.
And I went, how the crap did you do that?
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm going to show you. And he showed me and he told me how to do it. And I got 2 albums on. And so then when I paid it forward, any comic that came to me and said, I was listening to SiriusXM Comedy and I heard Jerry Seinfeld, Lucas Bohn, and Jim Gaffigan. How did you do that? Yeah. I got a lot of play. It put me in a different tax bracket, Lenny.
Yeah.
It changed my life.
Yeah.
And I would tell them, and they would do the same thing. Buddy, I'm never gonna do that. I'm never gonna buy the recording stuff. I'm never gonna learn how to do it. How much to have you do it? And I'd be like, well, I like you. You're my friend. I don't want to charge you money, but I also know how long it takes, and it you gotta put money into it. Like you gotta find a room. You gotta put 100 people in that room. You gotta then have a sound engineer that knows how to do the meticulous things that I just don't know how to do. Okay, like. You need to know how to do the ISRCs and the UPC code. You need to know how to register with Sound Exchange. You need to know who to send it to when it's done. You need to have blah, 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 blah. So I go, how about we do this? How about I'll produce your album? If it gets picked up, we split everything 50-50. If it doesn't, high fives all around.
Right. And then you have an album.
I'll pay you money
that
and
you
have an
can
album.
print
you
and
can
sell.
it.
Right.
Yep. You can go to disc makers in New Jersey and get download cards or lanyards or USB drive. You've got a product. We made a little bit of money off the ticket sales. You now have something to take. Everyone's happy.
Yeah.
And we're getting ready to film our 80th album.
Nice, dude.
We probably have 12 to 20. At any given time, I don't actually know the number because it's different every month what they spin. But like in a given month, they play anywhere between 12 to 20 of our guys on SiriusXM in some capacity.
Right.
And it's been great because there's been a lot of people that like my high school wrestling coach who got me into comedy is named Coach Tom Holliday. And he was the first person we recorded. He was the first person that got picked up on a record label. And I still have the text that he sent me in 2021 where he said, Lucas, I just got a $998 check from Sound Exchange.
Yeah.
I am so happy.
Yeah.
Like, I never thought this would be a thing. I mean, he was a gym teacher for 36 years. Like, he doesn't need the money. The comedy is his hobby. It's what he loves.
Oh, that's great.
And
That's
so,
really cool.
Just being able to go and, it's just so cool that I got to help my friends. And so I always promote, it's Bojo Entertainment. We have a Spotify page. We're on Facebook. We put shorts up of some of the comedians that performed at our breweries and our other little venues. And again, we're primarily a production company. We do have a record label. And like I said, it's a lot of people that I think is funny, that I work with on ships or at theaters, and I go, hey, I do this, and most of the time they're like, cool. Again, same thing, I pitched you, and you were like, I have a guy, I work with a label, and I go, hey,
dude,
man, no problem.
That serious money got me through COVID, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, it got me through it. And the thing, you know Colin Moulton?
I do know Colin.
I love Colin.
Colin, me, and Ty Barrett were the first 3 comics to go viral on Dry Bar Comedy, and Colin Moulton I met Colin years before at a Comedy Zone gig. He was featuring.
Yeah.
And like, I remember this guy, and I'm like, this guy's a beast now.
Yeah, he's really funny. He was the one to convince me, and it made sense. I tell everyone the same thing now. He's like, do a clean album.
Yep.
He said, do a clean album. And I go, I don't know if I really do a clean album. And he's like, man, he goes, I'm telling you. And he told me what he made, right? And I'm like, and it makes sense. He goes, they need clean material so bad. They need so much. So my first 3 albums, they were totally clean.
Yep.
And then I'm working shifts at the time, I go, it would almost be stupid for me not to do a clean album.
Yep.
I've got the material.
Yep.
So I put out 3, and I was the same thing. The first, like I told you, when I started getting the money, I was like, I think this is too much. I think they paid me too much, right? And now I get my monthly, but it's still, dude, I may literally save my ass during COVID.
Yep.
It's amazing. Yep. And now the new album just started streaming. They were great. They started streaming early in the new album. So awesome. Now I should get a little kick on the residuals this month. Awesome. So, but yeah, it's great. It's awesome that you do that for your guys and you get your stuff out there. Yep. It's a hard process, man, but once you get that stuff out there.
And once I tell you, it's just like an assembly line, which is, revolutionized the car industry. And I tell people it's kind of like an assembly line. Like, we have a guy that works for us. I know the first thing I have to do is we have to do this to do a show. Then we got to do this. Then we do this. Then we do this. And once you do it 80 times, because we're on our 80th album, it becomes rote. And it's like, oh, we're gonna film at Old Ox Brewery. Great. Marketing needs to be there 3 weeks before the show.
Right.
We need to have tabletop things here. We need to have the QR code go live here. We're gonna start our Facebook marketing is gonna be a week and a half out. That's when we really lean in.
Yeah.
To the marketing and ticket sales and whatnot. It should sell out on this date, which means we're gonna pull it here. After we do the filming, we're going to drop all the audio into the Google Drive. Then I'm going to send it to our sound engineer. He's going to master it, edit it, send it back to me. I'm going to do the timestamps, the cuts. He's then going to master it, edit it, send it to me. I'm going to do the ISO. I mean, it's just, you've got it down, and it's a thing. And so we can turn an album around in 3 to 5 weeks, depending on how involved the comedian wants to be. But it's like, when you do that, I tell people, they're like, how long is it going to take? I filmed with another agency. It took them 16 months to get it out. I go, yeah, that sometimes happens because they're not doing it like we're doing it.
Right.
Like, we record 3 albums a month.
Dude, thanks for doing this.
Hey,
I
man, Lenny,
it.
I love talking comedy. Love
great.
working with you. You've been great all week long. And man, let's do this again, man.
We will for sure. Thank you, brother.
This was fun.
You're still watching? That's amazing. Nobody does that. Nobody, but you did. That means you want more. Pick one of these clips. Go for it. I dare you. Hey, also follow one of those social media thingies.